Hello, I'm Bayka, and I'm the host of the Global Educator show. This is episode 20, my first ever solo episode, which I'm super excited to share with all of you because this is a topic that I've been researching and reading a lot for the past 3 to 4 months. I'll give you the topic in a few seconds. I would love to dedicate this video to two major events. First of all, being our 1-year anniversary at BYKE Academy. BYKE Academy, or BYKE, is a platform for educators and parents to come together and talk about how to improve the education system that we have currently and how can we create a better place for the next generation. How can we improve our teaching and parenting styles so we don't perpetuate past trauma or past wrong misconceptions and stereotypes. The second event that I would love to dedicate this video to is a Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. Since there are a lot of people being marginalized, facing inequality when it comes to education, job opportunities, even basic life necessities, our job is to be careful and not perpetuate these wrong stereotypes and misconceptions. And as educators, our job is to stop those misconceptions and correct our students. And as parents, our job is to also be mindful and careful of what we pass on to the next generation. So this episode is dedicated to basically wrong stereotypes and misconceptions and biased informations out there, how we can do our best to minimize them. This video is called Cognitive Bias. While I was teaching one day, I noticed students making rash decisions or a rash comment about a certain group of people or a certain ethnicity, and I start reading like, why is it so common that almost 8 out of 10 students have the same answer about a certain group? Now, there are some truths and there are some patterns that out there that make some stereotypes do have some truth to it. I'm not here to debunk any stereotypes, but the main purpose of this video is to minimize any unfair judgments and how can we make better decisions in life. So those are the main two purposes, is to stop making overgeneralizations and how can we make better decisions in life. This video is called Cognitive Bias, and also another name for that is Heuristics. Here is a proper definition by Decision Lab. I'm not paid by them. This is just a website that gives people better understanding about them. According to the Decision Lab, heuristics are mental shortcuts that can facilitate problem solving and probability judgments. These strategies are generalizations or rules of thumb that reduce cognitive load. They can be effective for making immediate judgments. However, they often result in irrational or inaccurate conclusions. Now, there are in total 6 different types of heuristics, but in this video, I'm going to be focusing on main 3 types. The 3 types that I'm going to be talking about is anchoring, effect, and representative. So let's dive in. Again, I'm Bayka, your host. Make sure to stick around, watch the whole video until the end. First one is anchoring heuristics. Think of an anchor of a boat. Now, the anchor for the boat is beneficial. It helps the fisherman or helps the owner of the boat to keep the boat secure and not float away, right? Now, it may be helpful for the boat, but imagine having an abstract or a mental anchor in your mind. All your thoughts are stagnant. All your thoughts are secured. All your thoughts are stuck in one place. When you put it that way, it's scary. We don't want our thoughts to be stuck in one place. We want to be always growing. We want to be evolving. We want to be expanding our horizons, right? So anchoring heuristics is taking the first piece of information you hear about a topic, about a person, and making a rash decision. So Basically, you hear a small piece of information about a whole country and labeling everyone or a certain ethnic group as everyone does it. So that is a very scary generalizations that adults, teachers, parents, we also make, and we have to be careful to train our students, our children, not to do it. Whenever we make a generalization, they're the ones who are also learning it, and we're perpetuating wrong decisions. So why does this happen? Why does this happen? Anchoring bias happens because we're comfortable with our current situations, with our current plan, with our current knowledge. However, they might be insufficient. Our knowledge and information that we have already may not be good enough, but we're so used to it or we're so comfortable with it, it's hard for our mind to change our ideas and perceptions and plans, especially like if you are used to going to a certain coffee shop all the time. That's where you want to go, right? It may not be the best coffee shop, but you're used to it. That's your favorite coffee shop. So how to avoid this is to look for more options and be open to different options when it comes to making important decisions. Also, if you're looking for a place to rent, or if you're looking to buy the best product, it is important to look for different options.
Number 2 is Effecturistics. Effecturistic is when we let our emotions and feelings affect our decision-making process. When we're making a decision, we choose what feels good, what feels like is going to give the best results. We choose what feels like what feels easier. So basically, we're choosing an easier task because we don't have enough information, or we feel like the information that we have is enough, rather than making sure that it's the perfect amount. So in other words, Effecturistic is letting our emotions affect our thought process or affect our outcome, and we're not choosing the best outcome or decisions, which leads to suboptimal choices. Suboptimal choices are just good enough decisions, good enough solutions. It may be beneficial for the time being. It may give us temporary benefits. However, in the long run, they do not give us long-term effective outcomes. Now, there are main 3 reasons why people use Effecturistics. First one is suboptimal choices. We think that we have the best tool. We think we have the best information. We think we have all of the details, and we think we're making the right choice. However, we're not. Suboptimal choices are created because we have lack of information, lack of cognitive capacity, and also we use it because we have a lack of time. So a lot of people use Effecturistics because of time constraints. You are running out of time. Let's say you have to find a perfect solution to a financial problem. You have 2 options, but the timeline or the deadline is approaching and you don't really know which one to choose, but you choose one just based off of what you feel. Now, this is a little bit different than gut feelings and instincts and intuitions, because sometimes our intuitions are helpful for us. It's a little bit different. This is more when we are choosing a task that's a little bit harder or easier, and people tend to choose the easier one just because it feels good, and we don't want to push ourselves outside our boundaries, which leads to number 2. And the second reason why humans use Effecturistic is bounded rationality. Now, bounded rationality is when we are complacent, we are satisfied with our current knowledge, and we try to stay in that area, or we try to stay in that boundary because we know that we've seen the results in the past, and we've already felt or we've gone through those certain emotions and process and experiences in life, so we know it's good for us. So we might judge a situation or we might judge a person because we know that they are good, so they feel like good people, or they might feel like bad people or a bad person. And when we're judging someone or labeling someone as bad, we are not actually using logical solutions or logical evidences. Rather, we're just using our feelings. We feel like this person is bad for us, or we feel like this person is trying to use us. However, it may not be the case in reality, right? So this is just a feeling that we're using, and it could lead to biased judgments. The third reason why people use affect heuristic is we want to see results right away. Like, we want to see immediate results. Again, when we're making an important decision, or when we're making an important plan and a goal, we want to see results right away. So we choose an easier method, or we choose an easier path. Instead of working out for maybe 3 months, instead of working out for 2 years consistently at the gym to see actual results. I'm also guilty of this. We only go for 3 months or 6 months, hoping to see that we see results right away. And when we don't, we feel like, this is not going to work for me. I'm going to give up, right? So this is also a biased decision. Why? Number one, because we don't have enough. Number one, we don't have enough time. Number two, we don't have enough information, or we don't have actual proof that 2 years is a good amount of time. So how can we get more information? I would say seek more professional advice and help, and look at other people's results. Have they seen results in a certain time frame? Now, here's another example. When we are looking to buy a product or buy a course, someone might choose a cheaper course because they feel like that is the better one for them, or they might look at the expensive one and think there may not be a huge difference between the cheaper course and the more expensive course, right? But sometimes those expensive courses could give you higher results, and the cheaper ones could be a little bit cheaper just because of the lower quality, right? So we think, okay, I'm going to choose a shorter one and expect the same result as the expensive courses. So we think that this is going to be beneficial. However, it's only going to bring us short-term benefits. In the short run, you are saving money, but in the long run, after you may join the course for 3 to 6 months, you don't see any results, or you're not really learning anything. So you're basically wasting 6 months, right? So that's one example. Another example is when we're buying something. We might buy something that's on promotion. We might buy something that's on discount. But when you actually start using it, or when you actually start, if it's food, if you eat it, sometimes it's usually a little bit lower quality than the actual price. Or it could be something that's almost outdated, or almost on the verge of being rotten, right? Food that's a little bit cheaper usually has a little bit of like a lower quality to it. So Effecturistic is usually choosing something that's a little bit lower and more comfortable with, and thinking that this is the best option without looking at better options. So another thing, advice for this is probably look at multiple sources of information, ask other people before making an important decision, just like all of the other bias. Now, I'm not trying to sell you any courses, but when we're making a decision, we want to look at the long-term effects. Usually something cheaper is going to give you a short-term benefit, right? You're saving money. You don't have to go through the interview process. You don't have to go through a lot of complicated processes. You get into a class easily. It seems easy. But if you look at it after 3 to 6 months, you may not have learned a lot. You haven't really changed or made any progress. And for the long run, you might be wasting time and wasting money. So it's not always something that's cheaper and easier is going to give you an optimal outcome.
Now, the third type of heuristic is representative heuristic. And one keyword for this, similarity. It feels similar to a past event. In another word, we are letting the past represent the present.
So let me give you 3 examples to further illustrate the representative heuristics. The representative heuristics look like this. The first example is we may judge someone because of a stereotype, because they're wearing glasses, or they're wearing a suit, or because they are dressed well. It may seem like they are smarter and more intelligent or more successful. However, it may not be that whatsoever. And the second example is thinking that something went well in the past, so it's going to go well again in the future. Let's take stock as an example. Because a certain stock went up a couple years ago, it doesn't mean that it's going to go back up again. Does not guarantee any financial security. So judging or assuming is a second example. The third example is because it represents something in the past that has happened to you. You have proof and evidence that it is helpful and it is true in the past. However, it may not apply to every situation in the present. The third example is that we use representative stereotypes to label other people. Just because one person or an ethnic group of people has a certain trait, it does not mean it applies to everyone in that same race or in that same community. So third example is making assumptions by using representative stereotypes. And there are some ways that we can avoid, be cautious, and be cognizant when we are making decisions, assumptions, and solutions. First of all is to research better, look at wide range of sources and websites and informations before we make a prediction or before we make a final conclusion. And the second thing that we can do is focus on data and statistical information that has been researched and done by experts, people in that technical industry. So backing up, corroborating your opinion with data and evidence is definitely going to minimize any sorts of stereotyping. Now, if your opinion is supported with a lot of evidence, maybe it is a fact, right? So if you have a fact and if you can support it with a wide range of evidence and proof, then it's possibly not a stereotype. Third way we can avoid representative anchoring and effecturistics is by mastering critical thinking. This is how we can think slowly and think about a situation carefully, looking at all of the important details, not ignoring small piece of information. So we want to look at every piece of information step by step, walking through with yourself or with someone else if you can't do it by yourself. And yes, so critical thinking is one important way or one important method to have a conclusive conclusion. Now, if we can use critical thinking, we can make better informed choices, informed decisions, and also it is going to be helpful for us to create inclusive environment for the people around us and not make them feel uncomfortable, and also improve our communication skills. So for the next part of the video, I'm going to be talking about the pros and the cons. Now, although it sounds like stereotypes, generalizations, assumptions may all sound like they are bad things, however, heuristics can be helpful in some certain situations. For example, when the outcome is not that important. So let's say you are deciding what drink to buy. You're at a store, imagine yourself at a convenience store, and you're trying to decide whether to buy orange juice or apple juice, right? Both have vitamin C, both are nutritious, both are healthy, and it's not really going to make a huge difference. It's not going to hurt anyone around you, but it actually benefits you. In this case, the outcome or the decision that you're making is not that important. You can choose the one that you already know that's good for you because you have proof and it is good for you. So let's say because orange juice is probably better and less acidic compared to pineapple juice, I would go for the orange juice because it's just more suitable for some people's gut health. So heuristic can be helpful when the outcome is not that important. Another example is like you have to make a urgent decision. However, those decisions are quite trivial. It can be like what you want to buy. It could be a white t-shirt or a beige t-shirt. Both There could be differences, but for you it doesn't really matter. You have the same color, you have one at H&M, we have one at Zara, both look technically the same. Which one are you going to buy? It doesn't really matter. So if you are in a rush and you have to make quick decisions and the final outcome is not that important, heuristics can be helpful. Let's say you only have 30 minutes left until your lunch break is over. You have to make a decision really quick on what food to buy, and you want to go for the restaurant or you want to go for the dish that you already know that is going to be filling, and it's going to be flavorful and savory for you. You want to choose the dish that is going to make you feel satisfied, right? So when the decisions are not that important, you can use heuristics. Now that I've talked about the advantages, it's time for the disadvantages. Unfortunately, there are a lot of disadvantages when it comes to heuristics. The first one is that it's dangerous when you're making high-stake decisions. So if you are a CEO or if you are working at an administration level, if you are at a high leadership level, you can't use heuristics because a lot of people's opinions, a lot of people's lives are at stake. Meaning, if you are a HR and if you are going to hire someone just because of their outside appearance or just because of their ethnical background or their nationality, this may not be the best choice, not the best outcome for the company, right? Because you want to look at a lot of other criteria, the skills and their past experiences, their personalities, do their core values match with the company and all of that. So there are a lot of other criteria that are way more important than a snap judgment made within 30 seconds, first 30 seconds of meeting someone at first glance. So that's the reason. That's number one. Second, the disadvantage is it could be a generalization. So you basically take one piece of information and apply it to a whole group of people. So if one class is struggling, the whole class might get a bad reputation, right? So we don't want to label anyone just because of one time of evidence, one time incident. The third is we've talked about bounded rationality. When we are over reliant on heuristics, it creates bounded rationality and we are kind of stuck in the small box and bubble. We are not growing and improving our cognitive abilities. So it keeps us stuck in a bounded area and we're only making good enough decisions and your life is only just good enough. It's not expanding or growing. So that is also not a good place to be at. Fourth disadvantage is that if we are using heuristics all the time, we are perpetuating stereotypes. I have repeated this over and over again in this video, but I'm going to say it again. Whenever we are marginalizing people or when we are stereotyping, creating stigma about certain groups of people or about a certain thing, let's say like hiking is bad, right? Without even having evidence, or thinking diving is bad for you or it's unhealthy for you without knowing any actual evidence, that can be dangerous and that you're going to limit yourself and not actually explore life at a full extent and not meet a lot of different kinds of people because you think, oh, that certain group of people is bad. I'm not going to join their friends group, or I'm not going to go to that certain place because certain type of people go there. I don't want to go to that area or that district because I don't want to be associated with those people. So you are limiting yourself and you're not getting to explore life to a full extent. One main disadvantage of using cognitive bias all the time is that we may overlook tiny important details. Now, these tiny details may seem trivial and mundane, but they might all add up and bring a huge problem into our face. So you think, oh, this is a small deal, it's not important, it's actually just gonna go away and you don't want to deal with it. Actually, small problems add up and they could, blow up someday. We're mainly not paying attention to small details, and we're only looking at a situation as a whole and generalizing. One last disadvantage is stereotypes. This is a huge problem because when there are so many wars and conflicts going around the world, without knowing which part to side on, we tend to side on the wrong group of people and start hating the other. I don't think hating is a solution to any sorts of conflicts. So before we start hating and discriminating other people, we all should try to change the way we think and look at how we can respect each other. How can we create a world, make this world a better and a safer, peaceful place, instead of creating more conflict and spreading false news and spreading false scenarios without actually having a conclusive evidence. So this is the last segment of the video, and there are main 3 ways we can avoid cognitive bias. Step 1 is to look for multiple sources and websites and people's opinions before you make a final decision and make up your mind, or even hold an opinion about a certain situation. So look for a wide range of evidences, proofs, and data. That's tip number 1. And tip number 2 is to constantly read and study. I do hear a lot of comment that education is a waste of time and waste of money and scam. However, studying, whether it be online or in person, you don't have to go to an expensive school or an expensive language center. You don't have to go to an expensive institution to be aware. It's just to read a lot and read all types of content and concept, and not just like the same type of news every day. And tip number 3 is to think slowly. Take your time when you're making an important decision. If someone is rushing you, you can just kindly tell them, I need more time to think. And if they don't understand, you probably have to kind of step away and create self-boundary. And also always have self-aware. Always be aware and mindful. And catch yourself. If you are making these stereotypes, you want to correct yourself immediately when you're talking to other people. And also if you see people around you that are creating these stereotypes and joking and mocking it about wrong stereotypes, you should also correct the people around you. So this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. And again, I'm Bayka. This is the Global Educator Show. I host these episodes and podcasts and /webinars once or twice a month. This is a place for educators and parents to just come together and talk about how to create a safe world and place for the next generation. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. See you in our next video.